Okay, page 5. We will not talk about number 7 because in the previous quiz we had almost an identical problem, and you can check the practice or the mock quiz I gave you, and the video that I made. For number 8, a curve which is given by this PT. And so this curve describes the movement of a particle. And you need to find the total distance okay, so you need to find the total distance you travel by the particle between the time t equals 0 and t equals 10. Okay, so you need to use this formula. The total distance is the integral of the velocity, the absolute value of the velocity, which is the speed from t1 to t2. In this case, t1 is 0 and t2 is 10, where velocity is the derivative of the position function. Okay, so the first line, you try to find the velocity by taking the derivative of a pt, and that gives you 2t, 2t, 3t squared. And then find the magnitude of the velocity, which is the speed. That the way to do it is taking the square of each components and add them up, and then take the square root. You simplify, it becomes this, and then from here to here, what I did is taking out or factoring out the t square in both of those two terms. Both of those two terms have a common factor, t square. I factored out and then took the square root, and that t square becomes t. Okay, try to do this simple algebra and you will see what I mean. All right, and so the integral is t times square root of 8 plus 9t squared from 0 to 10. For this kind of integral, you need to use a u substitution. Well, you can say 8 plus 9t squared is equal to u, and then the du is equal to 18t dt. You see that t dt is already here, and t times dt. So this integral is basically the integral of 1 over 18 square root of u times du. However, since this is a definite integral, you need to be careful about the bounds, upper bounds and the lower bounds, when you change your variable from t to u. They should be 8 and 98. Where does it come from? Where do they come from? It's basically the lower bound of u corresponds to the lower bound of t. Remember, u is equal to 8 plus 9t squared. So when t is equal to 0, then u should be equal to 8 plus 9 times 0 squared, which is 8. So this 8 should be the lower bound of u. Okay, it is not 0 anymore, it is 8. Where does this 8 come from? Because we know u is equal to 8 plus 9t squared. So when t is equal to 0, u will be equal to 8. Similarly, when t is equal to 10, u should be equal to 8 plus 9 times 10 squared. Oh, I made a mistake here. It's equal to 980. 908. So, yeah. The upper bound, it should be 908. And then you just do the calculation, and it should be 908 to the power of 3 halves minus 8 to the power of 3 halves. Well, then the rest part is just your calculator's job. And yes, you can use your calculator for this test. But when you are evaluating this integral, you have to write down the steps. If I don't see the steps, you will lose a lot of points. Remember, this is 10 points. If you miss the steps here, you might only get 2 points. The last 2 questions we already had it in the previous quiz. So check the quiz and the notes I gave to you.